Hello and thanks for tuning in. I'm Nick Fry, also known as at Nick's Music Taste. I'm sitting here with Mica Tenenbaum and Matt Lewin, the duo that is the ambitious, the wildly creative, and the highly talented Magdalena Bay. Matt and Mica, thanks a lot for joining me today. How are you two doing?
Thank you so much. What an intro. We're doing great.
We're doing awesome. Thanks for having us.
Good, of course, of course. We are in Omaha, Nebraska, ahead of your show tonight.
Correct.
You're currently on tour, the Imaginal Mystery Tour, supporting your new album, Imaginal Disk, which we'll get to in a minute. But this is your sixth stop so far. You're a little over a week in. I want to know, what are some things you've noticed about this tour that are already different from your previous ones, and what do these differences make you guys feel?
I mean, the shows are a little bigger. The rooms are a little bigger than the last tour, and I think it sort of let us step up some of the production elements. So we have some lights, some set design, stuff we didn't have last tour. So I think it's like helping us think of this tour as more of almost like a theatrical performance, and it's been great. I think it feels more like something that we've always wanted to do with our live show.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we dive into Imaginal Disc, what is one song from the album that feels especially cathartic to finally be able to perform live in front of your fans? I mean, I'm sure they all do, but is there a clear standout to either or both of you that just hits different?
Yeah, I mean, damn, a lot of them are really fun. I think Death and Romance is one that is really fun to play live, and it's not one that I necessarily expected to be in my top 3 favorites to do, so that's been really fun.
Yeah, I think also She Looked Like Me is something that I think works especially well live because it does sort of set up this show in sort of a opening type of overture in a way, which I think makes a lot more sense in the live setting.
Well, your new album, Imaginal Disc, let's talk about it. First off, I just want to say congratulations. I think it is excellent. It is unique. It's mind-blowing. It really is a masterpiece, so congratulations, truly.
Thank you. So sweet.
Absolutely. The reception has been extremely positive from both fans and critics alike, and I want to know, did you anticipate when you were creating the music, and maybe near the end of the creative process of the album, did you anticipate the overwhelmingly positive response? Did you feel like you were creating what many people would say is your best music yet?
You know, it's interesting. I mean, not necessarily. We were really, really excited about it as we were, writing the music and, finishing that writing process. But then what happens is, you get so into the weeds of, just the, getting it over the finish line, you know what I mean? From recording to production to mixing to mastering, and then all of, the rollout marketing that happens, and you kind of get, separated from it a bit. So it's not to say that we lost our excitement, but we just became, a little more detached, and by the time it came out, we were like, oh, people like it. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I do think, though, that when we were writing it, we thought it was our best stuff so far, but I do think we also sort of had this feeling that maybe some of the people who were into our earlier music wouldn't necessarily be so crazy about it. And I don't know if that's the case. I'm sure with some people, people who are super into, songs like Killshot or most of Mercurial World, maybe don't connect with it. But I do think that the album has also expanded, who would generally listen to our music, just because of it is a little bit different.
All right. Well, considering how loved Mercurial World became upon release and in the years after, can you tell me a bit about what it was like to have to follow that up with what would result in Imaginal Disc? I mean, was that nerve-wracking? Did you feel pressure to outdo your first album at all? Or if not, how were you two able to block out that noise?
Honestly, I don't think so. We just started writing, and then the music just kind of came, and it seemed to make sense together, and it was clear that it was going to be another album, and it sounded a little different, but it felt very strong to us. And I don't really think we were drawing any comparisons between it and Mercurial World until it was almost done and formed in a way, and we were like, oh, it's different. I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's different, and it did feel like an evolution to us creatively, which was important. We felt like we were growing. Absolutely. In some way.
Yeah, I think for us the most important thing is that we try not to repeat ourselves either from like album to album or even song to song. So I don't think we're necessarily trying to like do something intentionally different, but I think just these little subconscious decisions you make in the back of your mind that tell you like, okay, we can't do this because we did this already. Those things all accumulated and ended up in something that was different. But yeah, we don't go into like a project thinking we're going to do A, B, or C. It just sort of naturally comes out a certain way based on our, what's going on in our heads during the writing.
Great. Yeah, nice. That kind of leads into my next question. You were kind of saying how it just kind of was a natural process. You started writing and just sort of happened a little bit. Imaginal Disk is a bit of a departure in sound from Mercurial World, while still feeling like Magdalena Bay, I think. Disk is more progressive, psychedelic, mysterious. In the time between those two records, what inspired that change in sound?
I think most of what ends up influencing the music we make at the time is just what we're consuming, like music, film, TV, all of it just sort of fills our heads with all these different influences, and then when we write music, it all again like influences all these like tiny decisions you make and the sounds you choose and what sort of sounds or chords or melodies end up sticking with you is just like based on whatever we're into at the time. So I think probably musically we were listening to a little bit less contemporary pop music, a little bit more going back to like the music we used to listen to in high school, which is 70s prog.
Can definitely hear that a little bit. Yeah.
We were touring a lot, so which meant we had a lot of time on the road to listen to music. So we were just going through like entire discographies of bands we were obsessed with in high school, like Pink Floyd and Radiohead and the Beatles and stuff. So I think somewhere in our brains there was that. There was also just like movies we were watching. We were watching a lot of David Lynch movies and David Cronenberg and watching a lot of Star Trek and stuff. So all of that sort of, I think, ends up influencing the overall, I guess, aesthetic choices of the record.
I can see that. Death and Romance was obviously the lead single, and what an amazing song. I instantly fell in love with it. But my question is, how did you two ultimately decide on it being everybody's introduction to the Imaginal Disk era? Was that an easy choice? I know that Image was the second single, so was that ever an option to be first, or?
Yeah, I mean, to us two at least, it felt like Death and Romance should lead the rollout just because it felt like sort of a statement, like the song itself is more, it has like more like innate drama than Image, and it's like just feels like more of an epic,
Definitely.
Especially with Fear Sex attached
especially with Fear Sex attached to it, which we did with the music video. So it just felt just like a more, I don't know, like a big introduction to the era, and Image felt like a cool, second thing. Yeah.
I think Death and Romance is like sort of the epic introduction, and then Image is the more like traditional single choice, which I think felt right for the second single.
And I think with Death and Romance, when it was the only thing out from the new album, the way that it ends, you can tell it's transitioning into something else. So that kind of had everyone on their toes a little bit, like, oh shoot, even more excitement. So that was a great choice. Love the song. I want to talk about Cry For Me for a second, which has got to be my favorite on Imaginal Disk. And honestly, I think it might be my favorite song by you two to this point overall. I've been a fan for about a half decade now, and it's got to be my favorite. And so I'm curious, how do you write a song like Cry For Me? What did the process look like for that one?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how it got started. I mean, I know we started with the first part of the song. Like the way that the song starts is how the composition of it started.
For sure. I mean, except for like the 5-second intro at the top of it.
Right. Yeah.
I do remember playing on the Prophet Rev 2 and coming across this bass synth patch, which is like the main bass sound of the, like, well, there's like two bass sounds of the first section, which is the bass synth and then the bass guitar. But yeah, I found that bass synth patch, wrote that chord progression, which sort of carries throughout the entire song. And then I think at some point you wrote the melody over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that one was interesting because we had this whole first section, we had this middle point, where it builds and it breaks down, and then we just had no idea where to take it after for the second part of it. So we were sort of struggling with that, and we were really trying a bunch of different things, different chord progressions, and we were hammering it out, and it didn't feel right. Then at some point, I think we were just like, we got to keep the same chords all the way through. Let's just change up the melody and change up the feel of it. And so eventually we landed on this more like disco outro type thing. I think, I was always trying to recreate the feel of Dancing Queen, because I think that song is just like, it's just like the best feeling song of all time. It just, it's hard to describe. So I think I was just really trying to write something that fit into that same feeling. And that's where, I don't even remember. Do you remember writing the melody for the second part?
No, it just came like really quick, like once we got that basic feel down, it was like, oh, the melody should change like this, and then kind of like shift up until it, crescendos, and then, the song will fade out. And
yeah, I guess because you really bring like this melodrama to the performance. I don't know, it just felt natural to you at some point.
Yeah, I guess so. I just felt like the music was asking for that
That's
sort
awesome.
of performance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love to hear it. When you were recording Imaginal Disk, is there a specific song or two that comes to mind that was extra challenging to bring to life compared to the others, and in what ways?
Yeah, I mean, like, vocal recording is always, like, really a tedious process, and it could, like, you just get so in your head, and you, like, record the same thing 200 times, and then you, like, listen to the first one, and you're like, oh, that was, like, totally fine. I feel like Killing Time, I just, like...
Killing Time we ended up using... Did we end up using some of the demo, or no?
No, we didn't, because the demo didn't have lyrics, but I spent, like, months trying to emulate the exact vocal delivery that, like, the first Scratch demo vocals had.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. And then I couldn't figure it out, and then I was like, oh, yeah, I just need to add, like, a yeah here, and then it all came together. But it's just, like, you just get so wrapped up in this dumb shit. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, vocals, I mean, like, Cry For Me also just, like, larger scale musical, like, structure choices usually they can take a while, I think, with Cry For Me, for example. I mean, arrangement decisions, I don't know, I think for the most part everything felt pretty natural. I know, like, Death and Romance, it didn't feel right until we recorded Nick doing live drums. Like, we had demo drums that were sort of doing the same pattern, but it just didn't feel right. So that really just took recording until we actually felt good about that song. So.
Nice. Well, every song, you can tell that there was many hours of work put in. Absolutely. There's a lot to digest from the album, each song. So very well done there.
Thank you.
All right. Last question. Yeah. What can you say, if anything, about a possible Imaginal Disk Deluxe? Are there any songs that didn't make the album that may still eventually see the light of day?
Oh, man.
We haven't thought that far ahead, to be honest. I mean, I think when we write an album, you have people who are like, yeah, I wrote 100 songs for this and I only picked like 10 of them, but we're not like that. We pretty much any song that we loved and took to the finish line ended up making it on the album. So there are some songs that maybe we'll revisit, but hard to say exactly when they'll come out. But yeah, I think we're still just in the world of the original track list and want to keep exploring that.
Well, Matt and Mica, that concludes our time. I really appreciate you both sitting down with me today. Want to say good luck to you both on the remainder of your tour, and on behalf of myself and everyone watching, thank you for the incredible music. Super excited to see where you go from here.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
You can stream Imaginal Disk by Magdalena Bay anywhere you stream music, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to music, it's there. Once again, everybody, I'm Nick Fry, signing off for now.